All right, this is great news. The date has been set. The Inspector General, Michael Horowitz, he anticipates the release of his all-important report. This has gone on 18 months. The date is set for next Thursday, 1 week from tonight, June the 14th. Now, for weeks, we have been predicting that these findings would, in fact, be buried and released when all eyes would be fixed on the president's historic meetings in Singapore. Sadly, I think my prediction was somewhat right, and it's only 2 days after this big summit takes place, and then, of course, this will be released. Now, what has the Justice Department potentially redacted or changed, because they've had it for over 2 weeks now? Did they alter any language? How will the American people, will they get the truth in all of this? Will they be prevented from seeing the truth? In other words, are we really going to get unfettered contents of Inspector General Horowitz's report? Now, make no mistake, next Thursday, right here on Hannity, we will be analyzing that forthcoming report, page by page, on what will be one of the most consequential days in modern history. That's 2 days, of course, after the summit. Sorry, I am suspicious, and I hopefully will stand corrected next week. Now, we do have one good development to report tonight. The Inspector General, Horowitz, is now set to testify before the Senate the Monday following the Thursday release. And, of course, all of this on the heels of what is now a nonstop effort that we have seen by Congress, by the Department of Justice to Congress, to obstruct Congress from doing its constitutional duty, and that is oversight in their investigations. And according to Senator Grassley's office, the DOJ is now refusing to make documents and at least one witness available for their oversight into the FBI's ongoing General Flynn investigation. And add to this the DOJ's constant slow-walking of those documents to all the House committees, the House Intelligence Committee, the Oversight Committees. Sarah Carter will tell you all about a huge fight that took place earlier today and how the DOJ has reneged this morning on a previous commitment to supply documents that are related to the Russia investigation. The big battle, it ended up the Department of Justice now adding unprecedented new restrictions on how it plans to brief members of Congress. We're going to have more on this very important story. What we need is, of course, you, the American people, to be able to see it for yourself. And yesterday, we reported on how the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, arrogantly rebuffed Senator Lindsey Graham in his letter demanding to know why the head of the Mueller investigation has not recused himself, given his numerous conflicts of interest, including his key role in that decision to fire James Comey. He's witness number one in that case. And, of course, he was the person that signed off on the third subsequent renewal application as it relates to the FISA warrant, that, of course, spying on a Trump campaign associate. Senator Graham is responding. Let's take a look.
Were you satisfied with the response from the Justice Department to your inquiry about whether Rod Rosenstein should be recused?
No.
Why?
You got a response?
Well, you talked about a counterintelligence investigation. I get that. The question is the obstruction of justice. Is there going to be a serious look at whether or not the president obstructed justice by firing Comey? I don't know how you can have that discussion without calling him as a witness because of the memo he wrote. He's a fine guy. I got nothing against him. I think he's doing a good job. I understand why Jeff Sessions can't do this. I'm really curious as to how Rosenstein could be involved in overseeing an investigation if he's going to be a witness.
We'll have a lot more on this all throughout the show tonight, but first we have another extremely bit of important news to cover. First and foremost, the president's historic impending trip to Singapore, just days away from holding these talks with the North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, and they are going to talk about the complete and total denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. All of that is on the line. Earlier today, the president gave a preview of this upcoming trip. Here's what he had to say.
I hope the upcoming meeting in Singapore represents the beginning of a bright new future for North Korea, and indeed a bright new future for the world. The denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula would usher in a new era of prosperity, security, and peace for all Koreans, North and South, and for people everywhere. We could absolutely sign an agreement. We're looking at it. We're talking about it with them. We're talking about it with a lot of other people. But that could happen. But that's really the beginning. Sounds a little bit strange, but that's probably the easy part. The hard part remains after that. Maximum pressure is absolutely in effect. We don't use the term anymore because we're going into a friendly negotiation. Perhaps after that negotiation, I will be using it again. You'll know how well we do in the negotiation. If you hear me saying we're going to use maximum pressure, you'll know the negotiation did not do well.
If the summit does go well, will you be inviting North Korean leader Kim Jong-un to the United States?
Well, the answer is yes to the second part of your question, but certainly if it goes well. And I think it would be well received. I think he would look at it very favorably, so I think that could happen. All I can say is I am totally prepared to walk away. I did it once before. You have to be able to walk away. I really believe that we have the potential to do something incredible for the world, and it's my honor to be involved.
And the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, who's played a very important role in North Korea in these discussions and the lead up to all of this, he weighed in on these upcoming talks. Let's take a look.
The fact that our two leaders are coming to the table shows that the two sides are very serious. The diplomatic model used to date is different from past efforts. Our efforts give us hope that we can find real success where past efforts have fallen short. President Trump is hopeful, but he's also going into the summit with his eyes wide open. We've seen how many inadequate agreements have been struck in the past, and you can be sure that President Trump will not stand for a bad deal.
Here we are, only days away from diplomatic progress the former President Obama frankly only dreamed of. The majority of Americans, how are they responding? Overwhelmingly now supporting the president's upcoming summit. Now, all of this after the mainstream media doubted, they were fear-mongering, talks of nuclear war, and in a sad way, I think many, because they don't like President Trump and they want the Democrats to win, actually even rooting against the president's success here. That's sad for the country. Take a look.
The idea of a nuclear showdown with North Korea keeps you up at night? I would recommend deleting your Twitter app.
He is not merely being cavalier with a threat about nuclear war. He's being cavalier in a way that makes him seem demented.
These are the messages from a person who is not well, from a leader who is not fit for office.
President Trump is goading Kim Jong-un to test a nuclear missile again, to prove its reliability, to show him wrong. And fundamentally, I think it comes across as two kindergartners who are jostling each other, except that each has nuclear weapons.
Well, here's what...
Too late after 100,000 Americans die.
After a nuclear holocaust.
Or after a million die in Seattle.
And that's where we are. This is not an exaggeration.
Trump's comments about nuclear weapons have experts worried he could literally inadvertently trigger a catastrophe.
Wow. Could trigger catastrophe. Typical conspiracy theory over there. All right, these nuclear tests so far, let's go through this. No more missiles being fired over Japan. Guam's not being threatened. The region's not being threatened. Oh, we do have 3 American hostages. Thank God they are home. They have been freed. And what you just saw was obviously fake news. We watched Kim Jong-un walk across the DMZ right into the arms of the South Korean president and the dismantling of one of his nuclear test sites. Now, because this is just the first of 3 egregious examples of fake news we're going to highlight tonight. All right, here's number 2. Over there, Conspiracy TV, MSNBC. There you go, Liberal Joe and Mika. They can't help themselves. Now, usually Mika spends her mornings pushing untrue, absurd theories about the president's mental health, with, of course, Joe Scarborough, who's now the liberal. But today, she actually ventured out on her own and floated this insane rumor.
I'll tell you a couple of things. First of all, the hypocrisy is astounding because I know someone who spoke to Donald Trump recently about life in the White House, and Donald Trump's biggest complaint was that he's not allowed to watch porn in the White House. So there you go. There's a little bit of news for you. He's upset that he can't watch porn in the White House.
I bet they have those, 1-900 numbers blocked, too, which must be a disappointment.
I'm not really sure, but it just sort of flies in the face of all of this.
Andy Lack, are you proud of that? Is this what is so-called news over there, 30 Rock? This is so insane, honestly, I can't even bother. All right, let's go to our third and almost unbelievable example of fake news. It does involve yours truly. Last night, right here on this program, yesterday on my radio show, I made what are obviously sarcastic remarks highlighting a clear double standard as it relates to our justice system. Equal justice under the law, equal application of our nation's laws. And I was talking about Hillary Clinton and comparing her and what she did to those that have been targeted by Mueller's witch hunt, as Mueller is requesting everybody's phones. How interesting. Watch this. Maybe Mueller's witnesses, I don't know. If I advised them to follow Hillary Clinton's lead, delete all your emails, and then acid wash the emails and the hard drives on the phones, then take your phones and bash them with a hammer into little itsy-bitsy pieces, use bleach bit, remove the SIM cards, and then take the pieces and hand it over to Robert Mueller and say, Hillary Rodham Clinton, this is equal justice under the law. How do you think that would work out for everybody who Mueller's demanding their phones of tonight? Now, I'm certain the result would not be the same as Hillary's. Mueller wants everyone's cell phones. My advice to them, not really, kidding, bad advice, would be follow Hillary's, lead. Not really, kidding, bad advice. And I said, if, words actually matter, if I told them. Now, believe it or not, the insane left-wing media in this country, headline after headline, they picked up those comments. They're so dumb and gullible, and had a full-on, the only thing I can describe as a fake news freakout. Look at Newsweek. Sean Hannity's advice to Mueller witnesses, bash your phones with a hammer. Rolling Stone went with the headline, Galaxy Brain, Sean Hannity advises Mueller targets to smash their cell phones. From the Business Insider, Sean Hannity suggests Mueller probe witnesses should destroy their evidence. And more fake news from the Daily Kos. Sean Hannity breaks the law on TV, telling Mueller probe witnesses to destroy evidence. And there's Vanity Fair. It goes on and on. Trump, Sean Hannity, Trump associates, you're not obstructing justice hard enough. The liberal Daily Beast, Sean Hannity, to witnesses of Mueller probe, bash your phones into pieces. GQ, they got into the game. Sean Hannity encourages Mueller witnesses to do even more crimes than they may have already committed. And I can go on, frankly, for another 20 minutes here. But the hysteria gets even worse. Let's take a look at how Andy Lack's network handled this.
Sean Hannity is now literally telling potential witnesses and subjects in the Mueller probe to destroy the evidence and hammer their phones into pieces. Now, Hannity's defenders may call that sarcasm or poetic license, but words are words. Sean Hannity lives off his words, and we all know they have a huge impact. If anyone actually does what Sean Hannity says there, they'd be committing a crime.
What Sean Hannity admitted to and actually was enticing people to do and asking them to do was to destroy evidence, which is a violation of the witness tampering statute.
No responsible person on television, no responsible so-called journalist should be advocating for people to destroy evidence in a serious federal investigation. I don't think that we'll see him prosecuted. Federal prosecutors give people a very wide berth on First Amendment-related conduct. And so unless there's something more specific to link it up, I think that this will be what we often categorize as awful but lawful conduct.
Listen, if he's out there advocating for Mueller's witnesses to obstruct justice, then maybe the Mueller should speak to him and ask him, where'd the idea come from? Have you spoken to the president about this? Did the president tell you to say this?
Knowing Mueller, I think he's not going to light that fire under someone who gets free airtime every day. But one angle would be to say, yeah, look, I'm going to a judge, and I'm going to have you cease and desist this activity on national television. Secondly, I want to talk to you and see if Trump has gotten this idea from you or vice versa.
Yeah, words matter. If I advise them, oh, and by the way, it's really dumb. It's not going to work out well for you. You know, the great irony in all of this is that they're more angry that I was basically saying that everything, Hillary Clinton did it all. She did every bit of it. And by the way, I love the idea. I'd actually like to meet Robert Mueller's Mary branded Democratic donors. I'd like to meet Andrew Weissman. I'd like to meet the guy that lost to the Supreme Court 9-0, put innocent people in jail for a year to be overturned by the Fifth Circuit, that was excoriated by judges not once but twice for withholding exculpatory evidence and costing tens of thousands of people jobs. I have questions for him. I have questions for Jeannie Ray. I have questions for Bob Mueller. Call me. Now, let's get this straight. The mainstream media would put me under investigation, lock me up for merely highlighting in an obviously sarcastic way the double standard in what I have been pointing out, our two-tier justice system. And these same people didn't get the fact that Hillary had actually done all of that. She wiped away, acid-washed her hard drive, deleted 33,000 emails that were subpoenaed. She had an aide smashing phones with a hammer and lied about all of it. That actually happened. They did all of this. Are you really that dumb? Please tell me it's not true. Now, you would think that one under Mueller's thumb would be able to get away with that. Okay, just to be clear, if Robert Mueller asks for your phone, don't do what Hillary did. As I said last night, it's not going to end well for you. You won't get the same treatment, which was the point of it. Now, the media, when you think they hit a new low, they just dig and dig and dig. You can't believe this. You can't make it up. All right, one more quick news story here that the media probably hates to cover. The president granting clemency. This is a beautiful story. The woman's name is Alice Johnson, great-grandmother, sentenced to life in prison for one non-violent drug crime, okay? 20-some-odd years in jail. Her first day of freedom in 20 years. She thanks the president. Moments ago, she spoke with our own Martha McCall. Take a look.
The only way that I was able to make it through that time, and this is the truth, was my faith in God. I knew that one day He was going to bring me out, and I lived my life with an eye toward one day walking out of those doors a free woman. And the day that I got the news that President Trump had granted my clemency and given me a second chance in life was the best day of my life.
God bless you. We wish you all the best. And you know what? I think there's more of these cases we can find. Give people second chances. I believe in them.